If you haven't heard of it, Coachella is the world's highest, we could almost leave it there, just highest grossing music festival. Weekend passes start at $400 and they sold out in just 2 hours.
It takes place every year in the Palm Springs area. And apparently I'm not hip enough to cover this assignment.
And here's an interesting fact. It's the first year no rock-related performers are among the headlining acts.
Oh, interesting.
I've seen a lot of like the new age. It's all manufactured and packaged a little bit different. But you know, Hinduism and all people are like looking for love and that whole thing. I was actually meeting with a guy from the DEA recently, a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about what's going on with the drug problems and just like all of society. And he goes, well, here at the DEA, he's like, we say that the 60s are back.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking about that, I go, you know what? It's so true because you look, we're in war. You know, it's free sex, everyone's looking for love. The drugs are more than ever, purer than ever. Woodstock didn't go anywhere. Well, Woodstock, the name might have went somewhere, but I mean, they have Burning Man. You got...
EDC.
You got the EDC. You got, you know, all the different, you know, Coachella. You got all these things, and that's what people are doing. They're just doing these drugs at these events. It's the exact same stuff that's happening back then. I know you were part of the hippie movement, right? Or you came later.
I was a little bit after,
Yeah, you were young. You're a little bit younger. But yeah, so it's basically that's what's going on right now, which is so interesting because, you know, the youth and everyone was just out of it.
Music lovers around Southern California are getting ready for Coachella. They say there's nothing like seeing your favorite artists in a festival setting.
It's just being there, being around the people, the atmosphere, the energy from the music. It's fun.
I had a young lady that went to Burning Man. She's just a teacher in Venice. She goes to this salon, and the lady that cuts her hair said, I know someone that can help you, and she brought her to meet with me. And
by the way, really quick, Burning Man is a big festival out. It's up north, like by San Francisco. Nevada. Oh, it's in Nevada, and it's like I think it's like a week festival. It's mainstream now. I remember when the thing first started. My friends used to go to it. They wanted to take me, and I was like, we're getting on a plane, and they were smoking and doing drugs, flying in. I go, I am not going with you guys.
Yeah.
That was like years ago. And then it just like exploded. But so yeah, this girl's gonna go there, and what happened?
Well, the thing about Burning Man is there's no rules.
Yes.
Okay? So everything is shared. You can't spend money except maybe buying ice or water, but it's out in the middle of the desert. And so she goes in because it's this utopian environment. But it is definitely free love and it is free everything.
Yes.
But this idea of this, there's a giant Burning Man that's going to be actually burned on the final Saturday night. They also have a temple that they build, and that temple is it's a place of worship, and it's going to get burned also. But through that week, there's a lot going on. So they've got things going on there. So she just knows she went to spend that week, that 10 days there. She comes back and she says, I don't know what good is, and I don't know what God is, but I know that evil is real.
Whoa.
And she told the story. She said, this is what happened. She goes, I just got arrested in Venice, and I didn't know what was going on, but they told me after. I had started a fire on the sidewalk, and I had taken some coals, and I wrote these symbols on the wall, and they were like witchcraft symbols. She goes, I've never studied witchcraft. I don't know anything about it. But she goes, I know that I brought something back from Burning Man, and I know that that's what was behind this.
Whoa.
The last thing I knew is that we went to try to visit her in a state hospital, or one of the county mental hospitals, where they said it's just she has been taken over. But we got to talk to her family, and they said, we just know she's this, school teacher, and something happened and we cannot explain it. And so then it just becomes a mental health issue. But the mental health
then they say
professionals,
she's
they
sick.
don't know how to speak. They don't know how to deal with it either.
They just sedate them.
Yeah.
And just keep them. It is some crazy times for sure. So okay, so up there you've been running into a lot of New Age. What do you think the main religion is that like up in the LA area? Like, is it just more like the New Age or?
Well, I think people don't understand a lot of what's going on. I think that what's happening now is blended religion. So it's
like coexist.
A new spirituality, not just coexist, but if I want a new Buddhism, which means I want everything the traditions of Buddhism I want to learn from, and I will learn how to meditate and quiet myself, but I don't want to have to give up my materialistic things. And I want some Hinduism. I don't want it to go too crazy, but like tantric yoga is where you invite spirits into your sexual experience.
Tantric yoga?
Yeah. So, and it's like commonplace now, which is so bizarre to me that you would invite spirits in, and there's things happening. I mean, you talked about Coachella. I mean, it's happening this weekend, and you think anything goes there, right? I love music. You love music, but it's like, hey, anything goes. But I believe, even with some of those EDC, which are Electric Daisy Carnival, used to be in LA. Now it's in Vegas, and there's like 300,000 kids are going to come. And what are they looking for? I think they're seeking God. I think they just want to, maybe do a little Molly or whatever and see if I could get to God through the back door. I'm going to get some music. I'm going to be with my friends. I just want to feel love, but I want to experience something more than I'm experiencing. And so, if you could release some of those endorphins and make me feel really good, I'll do it. But even if it has an effect on me. And so I think it's people seeking God, young people seeking God, just saying, let's try another way. And I think it comes back to what we're talking about here.
100%. Yeah, it's very interesting times for sure.
There are reports of a gruesome scene outside of a South Carolina church where witnesses say a 19-year-old woman gouged out her own eyes with her own hands.
Kaylee Mutthart ripped out her own eyeballs while attending a church service last month. She was high on crystal meth at the time. The 20-year-old said she did it as a sacrifice to God. Mutthart told her story to Cosmopolitan magazine in an article published March 9th.
Witnesses say the 19-year-old woman was walking around here outside the South Main Chapel and Mercy Center. Moments later, she was seen kneeling near these railroad tracks.
It was terrible what I witnessed. It really was.
Don't go near them, ever. Keep your kids away from people that do them. Do your best that you can to stay away, far away, because they will take you and destroy your life.
Man, that verse, the enemies come to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal. Dude, that is so crazy. There was a kid that I met with. I think I want to say he was 19. He was like 19 when I met with him. He went through some kind of ritual or whatever with this guy. But what was going on with him is that he was also walking through the street and he started manifesting, and he started like wigging out, talking in different languages and on the bus and just being a ruckus in the street. So he kept getting arrested. So, but the same thing, they don't have control.
Yeah.
They don't have control. What religions and what you're seeing up there in West LA, like in Santa Monica, what are people into? Because we know New Age is back big time.
Yeah.
We know, atheism is at all-time high, secularism, and what are you seeing up there in your neighborhood?
Hearing a lot of the stories, you were talking about that era of the 60s and where the Jesus movement came from. And I've heard a lot of the stories myself about those days where, God did something that the church couldn't do, that no one else could do, but he did something. But I've also heard the stories of people that were driving into like Santa Monica back in the 60s so they could meet the swamis and all the yogis. And there was the whole beginning of the whole New Age movement of bringing together, the new Buddhism and bringing together some Hinduism, bringing some of the tantric type, the more extreme, the Kundalini yoga and things that are like way out there. But what was happening back then is just the roots were beginning to go down pretty deep.
Right.
Well, now they're established. So where we are in Santa Monica, the West Side is very much like the yoga capital. So the mindset is in a place that is very much pagan. And so even the idea of Christian values don't seem to fit.
Right.
So what's happened is I think that they've tried everything. But the ones who maybe came, to LA years ago to be something are many times the ones running from something or running away from something. And many times that was the church.
Right.
But that was a distorted image of Christ. So I think a lot of people have just kind of stepped over Jesus and tried all these other things. And I tell you, it's almost like the stories you read in the Old Testament, where they say, well, we're going to bow down to God, but we're going to bring some other idols in and kind of enjoy what we can get out of that. And I think that that's a big part of what's happening where we are. And so I think that it's not working. So I think it opens a door. I really think that the harvest is white. And I think people are ready.
And so interesting is I just know in my heart that we're seeing the birth pains of a revival as we're going to the high schools. And when we start looking at the pulse of culture and what's going on with kids, like they're hungry. They've never heard the gospel.
Yeah.
This is their first time hearing the gospel, like you were saying in LA. Well, every kid that we go to these high schools, they never heard about Jesus Christ crucified, dying on the cross. They don't know what it is. So the harvest is ripe. This is like perfect timing.
Never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the night. Light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.
You would sing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. Yeah, you did. You have been so, so kind to me.
Reckless Love, I know the biblical story behind it, but curious, where were you? What happened that song was birthed?
Totally. Yeah, two things for me. Number one was the birth of my son. when I held my son for the first time, it changed every idea that I held of God. Every idea that I thought of God, oh, well, because my earthly father was this, he must be this, right? And in a moment, it was like, oh my gosh, looked into his eyes, and you know, they look like alien when they're little kids. But I looked into his eyes, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I have a capacity for love that I never thought I could have, ever.
To realize that there's a lot going on in the world today that we would say that the enemy is trying to steal and kill and destroy, but realizing here Jesus comes to give life
abundantly,
and that more abundantly.